Alright, it's time to do my favorite thing on the channel, and it's talk Xbox. Xbox has been in the news a lot this year, a lot since forever, but this week specifically, they headlined the news for very interesting things that had happened. Obviously, I'm assuming you guys already know the headlines. Xbox, like, court documents linked, not linked, leaked information like upcoming games, leaked information on companies they were trying to acquire like Nintendo, upcoming plans for hardware, etc. So I thought the leaks were very interesting as far as how it pertained to the gaming side of Microsoft. How Microsoft is clamoring and trying to remain some type of consumer relevancy. Now, what does this mean specifically? It means that Microsoft specifically does well financially on their business side. They're looked at as the PC for your business. They have all the programs like Excel, PowerPoint, Office, stuff like that that are like essential and baked into essentially every business. And what they want to do is be a little cool, be a little fun, and that's what Xbox is for them. And for a while in the early ages of Xbox, that really was the cool console. It was on MTV, it was on Spike. They had celebrities hyping this console up. They did things like promotions with Taco Bell. And it hasn't really been the cool, sexy console though in a really long time, which is what really stood out to me in a lot of these leaks was that they're really trying hard to regain some consumer relevancy, specifically in the gaming industry. So in this video, I kind of just want to talk about the things that really stuck out to me revolving this leak. Not necessarily, I'm not gonna like go over every point. There's tons of YouTube channels and videos that already do that, so this isn't really gonna like talk about specifics, what was said, more so what the image is of Microsoft that these leaks kind of really painted for me. If you guys like this style of video, do me a favor and like this video. Please consider subscribing, as that does help us out tons. Let's not waste any more time and let's get into it. The first like piece of information from this like court documents that really stood out to a lot of people was the fact that sometime back in 2020 they were very gung-ho on trying to acquire Nintendo. Now, when I mean that they were trying to acquire Nintendo, it's more like they were floating the idea amongst like the higher ups that if Nintendo were one day ever to be in a position where someone could purchase them, Microsoft is the best Western company suited to outright buy ownership of Nintendo. Now, this was back in 2020. This was a post Animal Crossing like Nintendo Switch. Nintendo Switch has been on an all-time high specifically since then. Now, Xbox really thought that at one point in time Nintendo might find themselves in the position where they might need to be bought out. Phil Spencer goes on to continue to say things like he believes Nintendo's brightest future is off the console space, essentially trying to turn them into like a Sega where they make third-party games specifically for the Xbox brand. Phil Spencer's saying things that make no sense to any gamer. Everyone knows that Nintendo's strength is the fact that their console is the only like legal way to access their IPs, their legacy IPs that gaming is essentially founded on. Things like Mario, Metroid, things like Star Fox, Donkey Kong, Animal Crossing, all these amazing IPs, 30 years of legacy behind tons of these titles. And Xbox is saying that their best future is off the console space and making third parties. Why would Nintendo ever do that? It makes no sense and benefits nobody but Xbox. So the fact that Phil Spencer goes on to talk like this makes me feel like Phil Spencer, the guy that is in front of like the consumers, in front of the fan base, is very far removed from the actual Phil Spencer, the guy who said his career defining moment would be acquiring Nintendo. A gaming CEO is essentially getting a hard on from trying to acquire big studios, specifically gunning for Nintendo if the time were ever to arise itself. This mind boggles me in a weird way. Now, obviously, acquisitions are a part of this industry. It's a part of a lot of industries. Nintendo acquires studios, PlayStation acquires studios, Xbox definitely acquires studios. The difference between Sony and Nintendo, though, is I feel like they acquire studios in a more like, we want to acquire your knowledge, we want to acquire some of your talent, not we need you to make games to bolster up our ecosystem, because they've done fantastic jobs of not just fostering and like developing talent, but also finding like smaller companies like a Naughty Dog making Jak and Daxter, and really help give them the tools and resources to build them up to like a Last of Us style company. Nintendo, who's paved the way for essentially gaming as we know it now, and has spent years bolstering up their legacy IPs, and Xbox just wants to go outright and buy companies. And that's fine and dandy, but when is it enough? When is it done? And it just feels like Phil Spencer and all of Microsoft don't have their mind on, let's actually make games. I feel like they have their mind on, hey look, Activision makes really good games. I hope they make good games, but also are not financially stable, so we can outright buy them and just acquire all those games that they've spent all their hard work developing and earning trust and earning like the idea and mind share that they make good games. And instead of saying, hey, how do we make Halo a good franchise? How do we make Gears of War a better franchise? How do we build out legacy content? Instead of thinking like a real gaming studio, a real gaming company, they're thinking like big money. They're thinking, let's just go out there and hope some of these other companies that make quality titles don't have the financial backing to remain sustainable for a long period of time, because that's when we're going to pounce. That's where we're going to try to get these companies. Phil Spencer went out and said Nintendo is safe right now because they're sitting on a big old stack of cash. What? So you're waiting for them to burn through their cash so that you can acquire them? Again, things like this mind boggle me, the fact that they're in the gaming like ecosystem, because for me it just feels kind of nasty that there's someone breathing behind these companies' backs waiting to acquire them. For me is like, that bothers me. It bothers me in a way that, like, I understand acquisitions are important. Acquisitions happen in this industry, but it shouldn't be like something that you're hoping to do. It shouldn't be something that you're basing your company's like future plans on. Hopefully we're gonna acquire this people. Hopefully we're gonna acquire this people. It shouldn't be that. It should be building games first and foremost. Then it should be developing talent, making IPs that are long lasting, developing strong hardware to like create these ecosystems for this very unique IP that you specifically have and own. Not let's wait to acquire the studios that have the IPs we want, that have the IPs that fans want, because then it just, again, it feels icky, it feels yucky, it doesn't feel right. And as a fan specifically of the Xbox brand, it bothers me to think that this is the people running it. These are the minds operating the Xbox brand. And again, I just feel like their mind isn't in the right place. I feel like, again, they're more gung-ho on acquiring than they are gung-ho on developing talent and teams. Again, I feel like this doesn't necessarily get talked on as much as what the specific details were. And this could be, again, just the very like specific like things that we're looking at right now. It doesn't mean that this is 100% the whole full scope of what Phil Spencer is, the whole full scope of what Xbox is. This is just my gut reaction to when I hear and read some of these like emails, some of these leaked documents where they are talking very gung-ho and very like satisfied with acquiring studios, and very less like enthusiastic about building like homegrown IP. Because now that the more I think about it, a lot of the like games coming to the Xbox console that even make me consider joining the ecosystem aren't games developed by homegrown teams. They're teams that were essentially bought out through the ZeniMax purchase. Things like Avowed that looks awesome. Things like the Indiana Jones game coming out that sounds really interesting. Things like Starfield that are like, you know, making waves, making headlines. It's not the IPs that are like homegrown, like the Forzas, like the Halos, like the Gears of War, or even new IPs. Because every time I start to think about it, it's like, wow, Xbox really is just the big three. They don't have tons of other like content beyond what they purchased. They don't have much else to offer beyond Game Pass and beyond the fact that now they're the owner of ZeniMax and are going to be the owner of Activision. And hopefully one day they're praying to be the owner of Nintendo. And that's never going to happen because Nintendo is a gaming company that prioritizes games. Yes, they have their own dark side and their own things that suck on Nintendo's side, but in the end of the day, they retain a fan base because they create games for their consoles that their fan base likes. Same thing could be said about Sony. And right now, Xbox just isn't that company. Unfortunately, I don't know when the last time they've been that company is. And sure, a lot of these documents are old, but a lot of it is very like cemented in what I'm assuming their plans are going to be for the future. No matter how much Phil Spencer says, our plans are going to change, our plans change. I get that. But this is a mindset and kind of a culture that resembles what I feel Xbox and Microsoft have been for a really, really long time. Just nobody really says it as often anymore. I feel like specifically after like some of their directs, some of the presentations that they showcase, some amazing games coming to the console, the more and more it starts to bother me that a lot of these games that I'm hyped up for aren't games that are homegrown, and I don't see their homegrown talent really developing new IPs or even doing justice to the IPs that they currently have. Maybe Forza is the exception, but that's a racing game. No offense, no shade to Turn 10, no shade to the racing game genre, no shade to any of Forza, because I actually really love Forza as a franchise. One of my favorite Xbox franchises is a racing game, and I'm not even a fan of racing games. So again, I feel like Xbox really, really, really should stop focusing in so heavily on acquiring studios and focus in on developing talent that makes awesome IPs specific to their ecosystem and become more of a gaming brand instead of a big dollar sign that's looking to acquire people that actually make games. Anyways, I gone way over my time, way over the time that I expected to go over, to be honest. These are just my thoughts, my opinions. Do me a favor, let me know your opinions down below. Again, obviously this is just information that was leaked out through court documents. There's obviously a lot more going on to Xbox. This is just my gut reaction, and I feel like not enough people are really talking about specifically the fact that, again, Xbox, Microsoft, Phil Spencer don't really talk games anymore. They have their developers that talk games, but they don't really talk about their interest in even building up teams. This is why they've grab this approach of let's acquire studios that know how to make games and let them cook, let them make their own games, and we'll just throw money to support them when possible. Whatever. Anyways, I'm gonna end the video here. I'm gonna leave it at that. Again, let me know down below your guys' thoughts. See you guys on the next video.